It's Beverly at Crafting Chaos. I've recently had a request on one of the groups on Facebook that I belong to about explaining or maybe doing a video on how I created a FCM file by tracing an image that I could then use on my brother Scan and cut it out. Now, all I'd actually done was quite a simple operation, really, which was tracing a file within the Canvasworkspace software. And basically, that's what this video is about. So let's get to it. Right, so the first step you'll need to take when you want to carry out any sort of tracing an image is find the image that you want to trace. Now, it can be something that you've drawn, and you could just scan that directly into your scan and cut, use the direct scan function, and let it find the edges of your design and cut it out from that. If you want to do it from a digital file, so something that you found on the internet, that's the way I'm going to show you today. So the first step will be to find an image. Now I'm going to use Google Chrome, which is a preferred search engine that I use, and all I'm going to do is find a piece of coral that I like, and I'm looking for a clean image. So something that looks like it's got nice clean edges that the scan or cut will be able, the software will be able to trace reasonably well. Now, this is the image that I've done before, so this is the image that I'll choose, but any of these ones would probably work really well. Just be careful about using ones that are clearly copyrighted, like the Shutterstock ones, etc., because they are not free for personal use. Most images, if they've not got that, are usually, you can click on them and see where they've come from, but I'm going to select this one, and in good faith, I'm going to assume that it's free for personal use as long as I'm not using it for profit or gain. So I'm going to save the image, and I'm going to call it on my desktop. I'm going to save it on my desktop, and I'm going to call it Coral 2. Okay, and I'm going to click save. Now, because I've already done that, it's saying do I want to replace it, and if you notice at the moment it's a JPEG image. This function will work with JPEGs or PNGs, usual image files. So I'll replace that. So notice when I went to search for this file itself, I've typed in what I wanted, added the word silhouette so it keeps it black and white, and then clicked on the images section so that I get more choice. Okay, so now when I go out of the search engine, if you will, I should now see that I've got my Coral 2 JPEG on my desktop. So now we're ready for the next step, which was to go to our Canvas software. So it used to be Brothers Canvas software, now it's Canvasworkspace. Again, another program that's available for free download on the Brother Solutions website. So the next step is to locate the Canvasworkspace. So you do that again, and you type it in. And because I use the software a lot, it's going to pop up quite quickly for me, and I'm not going to need to type much of the words in, but it's canvasworkspace.brother.com if you need to type the full sort of web address. So I'm going to enter, and I am going into the software now. It's a cloud-based software, so that means it's available online. However, recently for PC users, they have a downloadable version that you can download to your PCs and use that on your PCs without the need to be connected to the internet. Unfortunately, at this moment in time, and I have emailed Brother to find out if there are any plans to make it available for us Mac users, but at the moment it's just available for people working on a PC. But hopefully they might, in due course, in the fullness of time, make it compatible for us using Macs as well. So if you're on a PC, you can download it. If you're on a Mac, you have to use it in a cloud. It is slightly different, and I think there's a little bit more functionality on the downloadable version, but this version online in the cloud will do everything that I need it to do, especially today. So I've got onto my page. First step I'm going to do, just to make it a bit more visible for you, is increase the mat size just a little bit, or rather the image of the mat size, because it's not actually increased the size of the map, just the aspect ratio of it, if you will, that you can see. So having done that, I'm now going to go to the tracing the icon button. Now, as far as I can see, where most people make the mistake now is to try to import that picture as an SVG. Now, that's only for importing cutting files that you've already got and want to edit or work on, whether they be DXF, FCMs or SVGs. To do a traced image, we need the next icon along, which is the one with the leaf, and if you hover over that, it comes up with the image tracing. So click that and it will open the image tracing box, if you will, the dialog box. So then all you need to do is click on choose file, locate it in where you've saved it, and for me that's in the desktop. Click on the file that you want, which is coral2.jpg for me, and then click open. And what will happen then is that will bring up an image of the file that you're wanting to trace in the Canvasworkspace software, tracing software. So what you can do then is just having a look around. There's a few things you can change, but what I would suggest at the very first instance is just go with whatever comes up as the default and do a preview, which is what we'll do now. And usually if it's a simple image, it'll give us a good trace. And if you look carefully now, you can see that there's a turquoise box, sorry, not a box, a line going right around the perimeter of the image, if you will. And that's indicating to me that it's traced that image really, really well. So we've got that preview. So now I'm happy. When I click OK, I'll get another message asking if I want to save an image of what I've traced also on the file. There's not really anything I can do with the image apart from use it for reference, and just because mine's just a very simple cutting file, I'm not going to really need it, so I'm just going to say in this case no. And what that will do is put me a digital cutting file now. That is now an image that can be cut. It's not that JPEG anymore. When I save that, it's now going to be a cutting file. Once it's on my desktop, I can resize it, make it bigger, make it smaller. I can resize the width, so I can resize the height by using the side arrows, the side drag handles, if you will. When you hover over, you get a different shaped arrow that allows you to move it across in that direction. But if we go back to the original size using the undo button here, that's where we started. The other thing that you could do is once it's selected like that, and you can tell something's selected. At the moment that's not selected. When I click on it, it is now selected because it's got this dashed line with the drag handles in the corners and in the middle of the sides, if you will. This one here is if you want to rotate the image. Now, for my purposes today, I've got no needs to rotate, but that's what it does. I can also, whilst it's selected, again, I've made sure you can either select it by clicking, or you can drag what I'd like to call a box around what I'm selecting, and that will select it for us as well. Now, if I go into the View Show Properties box and just move it so we can still see our image, we can now do a few other things here, because I can resize it specifically to specific measurements. But remember, if while this box here has got a tick next to it, means it's going to change the size of the width and the height proportionally. So it's going to be proportionally the same, just bigger. If you want to resize the height and the width independently, then you uncheck that, and we'll just to show you, we'll make that 2 and say maybe make this 3. I'm not sure how this is going to work out, but we'll get an idea, and that's what that would look like. And we know that's going to be exactly 2 inches high by 3 inches wide. Okay, so you can do it more directly there. Also, you can rotate by a specific number of degrees. So if you were making a flower, that might become more important. If you wanted to do 6 petals, you might want to rotate it every 60 degrees and so on, and then weld them all together to make a flower. But I'm not making a flower, we're doing coral and we're doing tracing, so we'll keep that for another video. Again, the other thing, I'm just going to undo that change. I'm going to click on it again to make sure it's selected. We can make it more visible on our map by changing the colour. So we'll change a nice to a nice colour. Hopefully that's going to show up nicely for you on the screen. So there you've got your image traced. Now, I think I'll just go back to what it was before we did any messing about, where it came in and the size that it came in at. So that's the size it's traced it at. The next thing we need to do is give it a name and save the file. So we'll just get that out of the way for now, and we'll go on project title, and we're going to call this one Coral 3. Okay, and it's the second icon along where it says overwrite this project. Feels a little bit alarming if it's overwriting a project, but as we actually started with a blank page, we're not overwriting something that we'd already brought onto the screen, so we know we're okay to save. Now, so that's saying that that's been saved successfully, so I'll say OK. So now what I've got, if I click on my projects, I've got that file available to me in the Scan and Cut Canvas workspace, available for me to edit from the cloud at any time. Okay, now the next bit might be slightly different if you're lucky enough to own a CM300 or a CM900, CM700, the new CM series ones. Mine's a CM600, so it's the first machine that Brother brought out. It's the one that I bought right at the launch. So mine unfortunately hasn't got the Wi-Fi facility, but yours may well have. So the next step could be maybe slightly simpler for you, but I will go through the full download on the USB stick for people who have not got the Wi-Fi facility. Now, in order to download the file into a format that we can use actually with the machine, we need to get it physically off the computer and across to the Brother Scan and Cut. So we click the download button. If you have got a Wi-Fi enabled machine, this box would look slightly different, and you would have the option to send it wirelessly. And if you click that option, it will send the file over to your Brother Scan and Cut. Well, when you switch to Brother Scan and Cut on, it will give you the Wi-Fi option when you go into where you're going to select your file from, whether it's the machine, the USB, or from the cloud. So if you sent it via the cloud, it should be there waiting for you. My only option, because mine's the original Scan and Cut machine, is to download the file firstly to the Mac, and then from the Mac to the USB ready for cutting. Now, because my Scan and Cut works perfectly fine and I can do everything that I want to do on it, I can't really justify spending the money to buy the upgrade at this moment in time. So I do have those functions, but that would be something I'd look at if I ever did need to replace it in the fullness of time. I do intend to get a more up-to-date version of the machine, and then I'll obviously have that Wi-Fi function too. So what I'm going to do now is click download to PC Coral 3. It will give me a place where I would like to store it. I'm just going to select the desktop again, just because it's easier for finding later. Click save, and that's now saved that to my machine. I'm then going to close down the internet page, because I'm quite happy to leave that now, because now I know that I've got the file saved in my desktop on my machine. And if we look at the desktop as the desktop, we can see the file that we're looking for is here. What I'm going to do now is take a USB stick. I'm going to plug it into my machine, and I'm going to drag it into my USB. So just wait for the machine to find it. There's my Kingston stick. Open my FCM files, and I'm just going to drag and drop a copy. Oops, excuse me. Do that, try that again. I'm going to, I don't think I'm pressing my key part in the wrong place. Not wanting to drag. Okay, so what I'll do is copy the file, which is what you'd probably do on a PC anyway. Right click, copy, and then right click and paste. That will put it straight into your USB drive. So that's it for that part of the tutorial. I'll see you in part 2 when I show you how I cut the file. Okay, thanks for watching. See you in part 2.